Hi David, lovely to meet up with you and begin working on your game. As promised, quick recap of the key points that we covered during your session. You set up P1. First thing we need to look at is the positioning of the feet. You can see here that both feet are quite square. Left foot turned out a fraction, but not as much as we prescribed. We're going to want to see much more, like you can see here with myself. Both feet turned out anywhere up to about 30 degrees. Between 15 and 30, find your comfort zone within that range, but certainly flare both feet out. That's going to make it much easier for you to turn the hips during the backswing, and it's also going to make it much easier for you to complete the downward path of the left shoulder as a result of the better leg action. It's also going to allow you to work better on the way through, allowing you to rotate and tuck the hips as you come through the golf ball. Having said that, we've got an upper centre that is sort of over the ball. For someone who struggles with the striking of the golf ball, however, I do like this look that we've got here down at the bottom, where the weight is a little bit more on the left side. This is you hitting some 80-20s. Weight forward and feet flared out was one of the key sort of themes of the lesson, and the reason for that was we were struggling with our low point control. So we'll take a little look at what happens at the start of the session. Like I said, pretty good setup. For my liking, there's a movement down and forward there. You're left tilting too much. You've done a little bit too much work on the backswing, as we discussed during your session. It's not always the backswing that needs to be changed. So a little bit excessive with the left shoulder working down. What I'd like to see is from P1 to P3, back off a little bit with the backswing, relax a little bit on that, and also let this left knee maybe work in just a fraction. Your hips work up, but they don't work in. So remember, the path of the right hip should be back and up, so it should be turning and working up. Your right hip works up plenty, but doesn't really turn a great deal. So I'd like to see you just soften that left knee up a little bit on the way back, so that the side bend to the left here isn't excessive. But having said that, not a bad position at all. Tendency tends to be, however, to release the golf club a little bit too soon. You can see the right arm expanding a little bit too quick. This can sometimes be caused by us getting too much out in front of it, as we've just discussed, as the left shoulder or the left side bend, left tilt is excessive. The player's upper centre goes forward, and in your case it stays forward. Whenever you're that far forward, you've got to dump the accumulators there. You've got to straighten the right arm and dump the wrist just to hit the golf ball. Again, relating to the low point control, radius expanding too soon, left knee straightening very quickly to prevent the club digging in the ground, and elbows dividing on the way through. So what we've done here down on the bottom left is we've positioned more weight forward. We've positioned the tube behind here just to encourage you to tighten the radius of the swing. Obviously, if we dump it early now, we're going to hit the tube. The tube will also encourage a slightly quicker ascent of the golf club from P1 to P3. So slightly earlier setting of the wrists. See the left knee on that one now starting to move in a fraction more, so there's a little bit more turn still out in front of it. But now what we're going to get is a little bit tighter radius coming into the golf ball, certainly more weight forward, so we've got a slightly more flexed left knee at impact. We've got that weight loading and staying on that left side, so you can see a little bit more downward pressure into the left side, and as a result we're now able to keep the elbows together on the way through, because we've tightened the radius, we've not dumped it. So we've got to get the weight forward at setup, tighten the radius of the downswing, keep the weight forward, and then keep the arms straight on the way through. Weight forward, arms straight was the key thought for your session. What we also taught was about tucking the hips more, and the way you can feel that is to try and just isolate what should happen in the downswing. During the downswing or the through swing, The player should be extending fully, should be sliding the hips to the maximum, and should be rotating through the golf ball. And if you get those three component parts in place, you're going to get a nice tucked look to the finish rather than a flex forward look as you come through. And in your case, it's isolating some key parts, it's getting the weight forward, it's tucking the hips. Just run that through again for you. So there's the extension, which is the tucking of the hips. There's the hip slide, which both keeps you inclined to the ground and positions the left knee out in front of the left ankle. And then it's the rotation through it, which allows the club to turn the corner on the way through and preventing us hitting out excessively at the golf ball. Good session. Look forward to seeing you progress and look forward to working with you again in the coming weeks. Well done.